on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his...
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Listener discretion is advised. The show contains graphic language and depictions of violence. It may not be suitable for all audiences.
We say fuck a lot. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
How you doing?
Man, you know what? Spring's right around the corner.
Well, I think spring's already here.
No, well, not officially.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because it's still cold.
It has been cold, actually. We've had a cold snap, and I think a lot of people are experiencing that up and down the East Coast.
Yeah, even, you always have those cool evenings or whatever, but the days are typically nice, but there's like a nip in the air.
Our listener, Stephanie, didn't she tell us in our Discord chat the other night that it was snowing in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done with all that.
I'm over the snow.
I would like to take a few seconds to shout out our brand new patrons have joined us at patreon.com/mountainmurderspodcast. Thanks for supporting the show, Stephanie, Liz, Karen, Julie, Darla.
Ooh.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And Karen, I believe, jumped into our Discord, and she is hilarious.
She is really funny, yeah. We love the Discord chat. That's a big part of our Patreon experience. Not only do you get ad-free episodes, bonus content, but you are invited to join our Discord chat, where you literally have access to Dylan and myself like 24/7. And we talk about all kinds of stuff, not limited to true crime.
Yeah, sometimes I just bitch about work.
Sometimes Dylan just wants to know what you're going to eat for dinner.
Well, there's that, and I want to know if everybody's having a good evening.
Man, I got to tell you, so it's Sunday, and I have had the best Sunday morning. So Sundays, in my opinion, are for a good cup of coffee, a little porch sitting, and like a delicious breakfast. And we just had my favorite breakfast in the world, which is corned beef, hash, and eggs.
Man, I must say
and
that
I'm so content and satisfied right now.
that is a banging combination.
Well, I'm just as happy as a bug in a rug right now, and I'm ready to talk about some true crime. But first, Dylan, let's bullshit for a few minutes. I recently discovered the Peacock app.
You were so happy when you found this.
Okay, so it's like free streaming, which I need more free streaming. We have 100 million streaming services in our life, but Peacock. Okay, so I've discovered that they have unsolved mysteries all hours of the day on Peacock.
Yeah, and they have a lot of true crime on there, don't they?
So lately, they do. I've been just binging all of these old unsolved mysteries shows. Wow.
Yeah, it's funny when you do dig back through the archives of unsolved mysteries. Some are really very interesting. Baffling. And then some are pretty goofy. But, it still holds up, but it still has that dated feel in a good way.
So some of my favorites, just because they are so super cheesy and by now have all been disproven, over the years, are the psychics. There was this one lady who claimed that she had this past life experience that was recurring, and she kept going to this, almost like a riverboat and all that. Anyway, she goes to this Ohio town and takes them to her grave and all the shit. And it turns out the lady had actually lived in Ohio and was very familiar with the area.
Oh,
so
man.
it was a total lie. But those just kind of crack me up because those people always end up being full of shit.
She was a straight up con.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and sometimes those psychics can prey on families in mourning, and that really pisses me off.
Yeah, that pisses me off too, but I've yet to see a psychic person on Unsolved Mysteries that wasn't just totally full of shit.
Yeah, and I don't think that happens as often nowadays, but when we were growing up, it happened
psychics was a big thing.
Yeah, it would happen in some really big profile cases, and
they were all over the daytime talk shows.
Yeah.
You had the Sylvia Brown. She was constantly on the Montel show, and I don't know. Just kind of
funny. It was such a huge thing back then, and then a lot of them obviously been debunked or whatever you want to call it now. But now and again, even in the psychic stories, you'll get one that just doesn't add up, or there's no. And those tend to be the ones who don't ask for any money, try to stay out of the spotlight. And, you know, there are some interesting stories in the psychic help area.
Also, we have been listening to this podcast that I highly recommend. It's called Welcome to Your Fantasy, and it is about the Chippendales. Yes, we're talking about the shirtless 80s dancers that are all oiled up with mullets and stuff.
Now, of course, being 43, when I hear Chippendales, I think of the Saturday Night Live skit with Chris Farley
Who doesn't?
and Patrick Swayze. One of the funniest skits I've ever seen in my life to this day.
Sorry if you can hear a muffly sound. I'm trying to take off my bandana.
The fact that a man the size of Chris Farley, but he was still getting it. I mean, he was getting it.
What kills me, like, at the time, people considered Chris Farley to be, like, this morbidly obese dude. And when you watch those videos now, I'm like, he's not even really that fat. I mean, he's just, like, pretty average dad bod, in my opinion.
Oh, man, he would be a hot commodity right now.
He totally would be. But it's a great podcast. There's the true crime aspect, a lot of shady shit going on back in the day. So if you're into like kitschy throwback stories about the Chippendales, check it out.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I didn't realize how big Chippendales was when it really kind of exploded on the mainstream scene.
I've never been to a Chippendales show. I bought tickets a few years ago to see, I guess, one of the afterthoughts, like Thunder from Down Under or something.
Yeah, that's some of the...
At like a casino nearby. I was supposed to go with a group of friends, and then like at the last minute, just decided not to go. I just wasn't feeling it. You know, I have social anxiety, so I was like, whatever. I wasted like $15 on a ticket.
Oh, baby.
But I've never been.
It could have...
I feel like it would be a fun experience.
It could have been thrust upon you.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to thrust anything. I guess it kind of grosses me out a little bit. Like, I don't want someone to come over and put their junk in my face.
Just random junk.
Yeah, I'm good.
Sweaty junk.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, sometimes I tell you this, and I don't know that you believe me, but I've been in strip club.
You have?
A handful of times.
That hurts my feelings.
Few times over the years, and it's just not my scene. I guess we're both kind of have these same things about social settings and people being in your personal space and stuff. And I'll be with some buddies, and they're just having the time of their life, and I'm just thinking like weird stuff, like just like or it seems gross to a degree to me. And this is not against anyone who makes a living doing certain things or nothing like that. It's just not for me.
We support sex workers.
Yeah, we totally do. And you can make a shit ton of money, and cool for you.
Yeah, I was in the burlesque scene, and when we met, I was still doing that pretty actively, and you would come to shows. And of course, I have a lot of friends who still perform, so doing that, I was always kind of like, woo, yeah, but it was like friends and people I felt comfortable with. I think I'm just like weirded out by strangers.
Well, see, for me, it's more my own issues and awkwardness than anything about the people or, anyone who does it.
Yeah, I just feel really weird about strangers like touching me or being in my face just in general. So there's that issue. And the reason I kind of wanted to start today's show with a little lighthearted banter is because we do have a pretty serious case to talk about today, Dylan. Today's case, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a trigger warning here, does feature intimate partner violence and discussions about that. So if that is something that you find disturbing, don't want to listen to, then maybe you want to skip today's case, and that's okay. We understand.
Yes, because domestic violence and stuff like that affects a lot of people, and it can be a very, very traumatic experience on many levels. And yeah, some people don't want to even think about those situations, and we understand.
Brings back bad memories. We totally get it. Just wanted to let you guys know what today's show will be a discussion about. We don't go into great detail about those, in the story, we don't go into a ton of detail about it, but it is there just in case, it's hard for you to listen to. And I want to give a big shout out to Ravonda. She suggested this case, sent along some information that was very helpful for what we're going to be talking about.
Thanks, Ravonda.
Yeah, so let's get into it, Dylan. Are you ready, sir?
Man, I am so ready to dive in with 2 feet.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, known as the ECBI, is a federally recognized tribe based in western North Carolina just south of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The remaining Cherokee are descended from the 800 to 1,000 who remained in the eastern United States after the Indian Removal Act moved 15,000 Cherokee west of the Mississippi River in the late 1830s. Maybe you've studied the Trail of Tears in school. Terrible blight on American history.
It was not cool.
No. Well, the Qualla Boundary is a land trust made up of an area of the original territory, and when the ECBI was recognized as a tribe, they had to buy back their land from the federal government.
Really?
Today's ECBI are primarily descendants of those persons listed on the 1925 Baker Rolls of Cherokee Indians. And side note, through some ancestry, like some research recently, my great-grandpa was on the Baker Rolls.
Really?
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
So you've had a little Indian in you.
We have some Native American, yes, Dylan. There's actually a Hyatt Creek on the Qualla Boundary.
Yeah, Old Man Hyatt was one of the first foreign invaders to come to this area, right?
Definitely settled into Haywood, what is now known as Haywood County, where we live, yes. Yep. I have some interesting history in my family, Dylan. Well, the Qualla Boundary is not technically considered a reservation because the tribe owns the land outright. Cherokee is absolutely beautiful. It's located in the mountains, as we mentioned. It's now a tourist destination with rich history, outdoor adventure, and award-winning golf and a casino resort.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize there was that difference. So they own the land outright. It's not a federal land that's like reserved for this group of people.
Yes.
Okay, that's
We're
interesting.
talking about Cherokee, North Carolina, by the way. So 23-year-old Deanah McCoy was an enrolled member of the ECBI who lived in the Birdtown community of Cherokee. She was a 1995 graduate of Cherokee High School, and she was studying radiology at Southwestern Community College. Deanah had been in a relationship with a man named Martin Pepion. Pepion also lived in Cherokee. Now, according to reports, their relationship was rocky from the start. Relatives would say it was one of those relationships where they'd fight, break up, then reconcile.
Well, I think we all know people who have that type of relationship, and some of us may have even went through a relationship like that.
Deanah and Martin, they had 2 children together, Tyler and Tiana. Martin had a history of domestic violence. In October of 2000, Martin had held a pocket knife to Deanah's throat, forcing her to leave with him. He was eventually arrested and charged with assault and kidnapping, and Deanah was treated at the local hospital for serious injuries that she suffered after this argument with her estranged boyfriend. In December of 2000, Martin was released on a $20,000 bond, and a judge ordered Martin to have no contact with Deanah unless it was to discuss visitation with their 2 children. Martin was no stranger to law enforcement. In 1995, he was convicted of a misdemeanor breaking and entering along with some larceny charges.
Well, and that doesn't surprise me because he sounds like he has a certain type of personality and temperament, and that's just going to lead to 2 other run-ins with the law.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly like petty crimes. Maxine Stigman, who worked at a domestic violence shelter known as the Swain Koala Safe House, would later say that Deanah McCoy tried hard to separate herself from Martin Pepion. Stigman, in an interview with the Asheville Citizen-Times newspaper, said, "We tell them when you do decide to leave, that's when something often happens. Violence against women and girls is one of the most prevalent human rights violations worldwide." Let's talk a little bit about that. So wife beating, as it was called, was made illegal nationally in 1920. So in the United States, intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crime. Research from the CDC in 2017 found that more than half of all female homicides are committed by intimate partners, 98% of whom are men.
More than half?
More than half.
That blows my mind. That's crazy.
Well, what's crazy to me is that up until 1920, you could legally beat your wife.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where the term rule of thumb comes from. You can take your wife to the courthouse steps and beat her with a rod as big or smaller than your thumb in public. I mean, what? I just don't understand. We talk about this all the time, the violence towards women that's allowed to go on in this country to this day in many different ways.
Well, it's disgusting. And we still are not taking the proper steps to ensure women and girls' safety.
No, and I think it does start when kids are young, the women or girls and boys. And, or, I know there's all these different terms nowadays, but when kids are young, it starts then of teaching them,
well, if he teases you, if he pulls your hair, if he is mean to you, it's because he likes you.
Yeah, well, I'm saying these are these little things that reinforce through these children's lives. Oh, but boys being boys, or you can't do that. That's for boys, and all this, stupid stuff like that. And or you just got to teach kids that's not okay. The little girls, you have self-worth. You deserve all these different things, and you could never let anyone, especially, your supposed lover, treat you like this. And to the boys, never ever treat.
It is unacceptable to treat anyone that way. But like especially someone that you quote unquote love.
Yes.
Right.
But I think we all know these are cyclical, generational things that are passed down from, toxic parents. Yes. And toxic parents to the children, and then they grow up and do just like their parents.
Yeah, I think research and studies show that like boys who grow up in domestic violence often lash out at their partners, and then girls that grow up in that they find it acceptable, or they don't understand that it's wrong, or that that's not how things are supposed to be, and so they find themselves being in a situation like that.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, we're no experts here, but it's messed up. Let's get back to our story. So it was Thursday, February 1st of 2001, when Deanah McCoy left her home in Cherokee with a friend named Chastity Worley for a girls' night out at Thunder Ridge in Maggie Valley, North Carolina.
Oh my God.
We have to talk a little bit about Thunder Ridge, Dylan, because this is a local story, and we've both been to Thunder Ridge when it was a thing.
Thunder Ridge was my jam.
So Thunder Ridge was this big dance club in the area at the time. And you have to understand, we live in a pretty rural area here in Western North Carolina. Like, the nearest clubs at that time were in Asheville. So some people would have to travel an hour, 2 hours away just to get to like a dance club.
And they would do it.
They would. So when Thunder Ridge opened, it was kind of more centralized. A lot of people would drive to Thunder Ridge from, an hour, 2 hours away, because it was this huge dance club.
And it was, I guess for any area, it'd be big. Around here, it just blew our mind, because they would have like 400 or 500 people in this great big club.
Bands.
Oh my goodness.
So from Cherokee to Maggie Valley is about a 10 to 15 minute drive over Soco Mountain. And Thursdays at Thunder Ridge was typically college night, when students from Western Carolina University and other local community colleges poured into the club for music and dancing. The place on Thursday was just filled with 20-somethings.
Oh man, I puked in that parking lot so many times.
You did?
Yeah, me and liquor.
Well, I had quite a few interesting experiences there myself.
Oh my God. Just kidding.
My girlfriends and I were in a dance contest. There was like 4 of us. They called us the Hoe Train.
Ooh.
So then for like weeks after, we were known as the Hoe Train.
Were you like the caboose?
Baby, I was the caboose. You know it.
Oh,
I got
baby.
The caboose, and I was the caboose.
That's
it.
it.
But it was a lot of fun.
It was a great time. And that whole area would be alive, full of people, and then people would go to go to the store. And it was a whole event. I guess people out there are like, these people are starved for attention and entertainment, and we were. And that's why it was such a big deal.
Yeah, and Thursday nights, the college night, it was packed place. So while Deanah was at Thunder Ridge, she bumped into her ex-boyfriend, Martin. 25-year-old Martin Pepion was at the club with his 20-year-old cousin, Robert Gronewald, known as Bug. So we'll be calling him Bug throughout the story. Though the pair was supposed to have no contact, Martin pressured Deanah to dance with him, and the couple shared a few dances together. When Deanah and her friend tried calling it a night, Martin begged Deanah to let him go home with her, and Deanah rebuffed his advances. Martin became angry. Now, in the parking lot of Thunder Ridge, it's around 2 a.m., closing time, when Martin tells Deanah, "You've had too much to drink," and she had been drinking that night. Martin continued asking her if he could come home with her, and she again rejected him. Martin attempted to get into her truck on both the driver's and passenger sides. Realizing that she wasn't in any condition to drive, Deanah tossed the keys to her friend Chastity, but stood firm that Martin was not spending the night with her.
So she's danced with her ex. I guess they're, off again at the moment. They've had some dances. He's trying to, sounds to me like she's just, hey, I'm having a good time. There you are. And he's wanting...
And maybe just trying to, appease him a little bit, because if she knows that he has a violent temper...
Right.
She's maybe just trying to appease him with a couple of dances. But it sounds to me like Deanah's really ready to finalize this breakup. She is not interested in the getting back together with him. She's realized he's dangerous, he's violent. She really wants to end things.
Right. And he's totally the other end of the spectrum, wants to get back control of her, get back into this relationship for what, how they do it. They beat you up, hit you, are horrible to you, and then they're super sweet and nice. And
I won't do it again.
It'll
baby,
never
I
happen
love
again.
You. Let me come home.
I don't know why I did that, and then blaming all the shit in their child and messed up things in their lives as to why they did you like that. And it's just this cycle, and it does sound like she's kind of over it. But he's definitely trying to rekindle that love.
Martin insisted that he would follow them in Bug's minivan. Chastity could drive herself home to Canton, North Carolina, and then the men would follow Deanah back to her house, ostensibly to make sure that she got there safely. Now, during the 16-mile or so ride from Maggie to Canton, Chastity could barely see because Martin's headlights he was following so closely that she couldn't even see his headlights. He was right up on the rear end of their vehicle.
Okay, that's kind of weird.
So close that she can't see the headlights.
Yeah, I mean, that's within a couple of feet of your bumper.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not normal. Well, when the women arrived at Worley's house in Canton, Chastity asked her friend Deanah to spend the night. Now, Deanah explained that her children had school in a few hours, so she needed to return home in order to be up and get them ready, get them off to school. Chastity was concerned for her friend. She didn't feel like it was a good idea for Deanah to return to Cherokee with Martin or Bug. But Deanah assured her friend that, she thought it would be fine as long as she was able to drive separately from the men in her own vehicle.
And she's like, I'm going to go home. He's not staying. You already know I'm not into that. And I just need to get home because this was on a Thursday night, I'm going to assume. And
yeah,
get
by
the
now
kids
it's
Friday morning.
Almost 3 a.m. It's Friday morning. The kids have to be at school probably, I'm going to guess, 8 o'clock in the morning. So she's like, I got to get back home. Well, it was around 2:58 a.m., so around 3 a.m., that Deanah said goodbye to her friend. And then she drove to a nearby church parking lot on Beaver Dam Road where she met up with the two men.
See, this is a bit strange to me because, why meet them there, Why not insist on going straight home?
In the parking lot of the church, Martin Papillon exited his cousin's minivan carrying a gun. He approached Deanah and the two began arguing about their relationship. So at one point, Deanah called Bug over. She was like, get out of the van and come over here. The couple both had their hands on this gun fighting. Not a good situation. Well, she tells Bug, I want you to take Martin's gun. She says, I trust you to put this gun away. So Bug, who had always looked up to his older cousin Martin, watched as the man sank to his knees, begging Deanah to take him back.
So there's a violence on his mind. He gets out of the vehicle Martin gets out of the vehicle with a gun. He's trying to intimidate her into doing whatever he wants. So it's totally not a good scene. But she thinks his cousin can calm him down. I'm sure this is not the first time that the cousin's been around and something's popped off. And she thinks the cousin can help in this situation. At least get the gun back in the car.
Yeah, please take this gun, put it back in the van.
Okay.
Right? So Bug gets back in the van, and he's hearing Deanah tell Martin, no, I'm not going to get back together with you. No, you're not coming home with me. And then she calls him stupid. Annoyed that Deanah was mocking his cousin, Bug raises the gun and shoots Deanah in the head as she's sitting in her truck.
He just, out of nowhere, without any warning or saying anything, just shoots her. That doesn't make any sense.
It was around 3:15 a.m. So she had legit been gone from her friend's house for 15 minutes. So in a matter of just minutes, this happens. Bug then tells Martin to get in Deanah's truck and drive. So the pair drove the vehicles down I-40 East, heading toward Asheville, North Carolina, only stopping at a gas station long enough for Bug to purchase a 2-gallon gas can and some gasoline. And then the pair hit I-26.
Yeah, buying a gas can and 2 gallons of gas at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's always a good sign, right?
Probably not. Let's go ahead and pause for just a moment, Dylan, and take a quick break. We are back. Now, at some point, Martin Papillon pulled over off of I-26 in Deanah's 1997 Chevy pickup truck near the Long Shoals Road exit off of 26. This is like the South Asheville area. Martin dragged Deanah's body up a hillside and into some brambles. Struggling to hide her body, Bug joins his cousin, and the pair further move the body into the overgrown area, about 50 to 60 feet off of, from the highway.
So they're just pulled over on the side of the damn road.
After they dumped the woman's body, the pair then drove both vehicles to Transylvania County near Brevard, North Carolina. They removed the license plate from Deanah's truck and set it on fire using a pizza box from inside the minivan along with the gasoline they had purchased.
Yeah, because if you take a tag off of a vehicle, there's absolutely no way to identify it besides multiple other ways, like VIN numbers and such.
Well, I was thinking about it, Dylan. So now that South Asheville area near Long Shoals is quite populated. It's a big business area. There's a huge shopping center, movie theater, a bunch of restaurants.
Yeah, you got a little city there.
Yeah, now it's really, it's kind of sprouted up this huge, populated area. But I was thinking about at this time, there wasn't a whole lot there. So it would have been much easier back in 2001 to pull off the highway and drag a body up the road.
Well, yeah, back then, almost all of that wasn't there. All that stuff you're describing, high density housing and neighborhood subdivisions, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it actually would, if you're looking for somewhere to hide a body, unfortunately, it would probably be a good area because it's quickly kind of goes straight off into the country, kind of. If you turn away from the interstate. Yeah,
definitely. Well, after setting the truck on fire, the pair loaded up into Bug's minivan, driving back home to Cherokee. Along the way, Martin Papillon tossed the gun, a black .357 caliber, out the window, and the gun will never be recovered. In the meantime, a sheriff's deputy is alerted to this vehicle fire, and by the time the officer arrived on the scene, the truck was completely burned. He did locate the pizza box, noting it smelled strongly of gasoline. Now, by this time, McCoy's family noted that she hadn't returned home from the night out.
Well, yeah, it's not going to be very long before she's missed.
A police officer was sent over later that day to Martin Papillon's house to ask about the whereabouts of Deanah. A detective inspected Bug's minivan, noting there was a strong odor of gasoline emanating from it. After a precursory search of the minivan, the detective discovered a label torn from the pizza box, which had been found at the scene of the burn truck.
See, well, that's kind of wild. The box didn't burn up completely, and it just happens to have his label, peeled off of it in a certain way.
And the label happens to be in the minivan with your name and information on it?
That's pretty crazy.
I mean, come on. When police left, Martin's mother drove him and Bug to the Asheville airport where they purchased plane tickets and flew to Cleveland, Ohio.
So the first sign of cops questioning, looking at them, and this is all happening very fast because her friend knows that she left with you and she's worried about her leaving with you too. And she's missed, her kids aren't gotten up for school, quickly missed and reported. And now the cops are here the next morning, sounds like.
Hours later.
And, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just flabbergasted at the stupidity of people, man. It just happens over and over in these stories.
Martin and Bug then traveled to Browning, Montana from Cleveland. Martin Papillon's father lived on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in Montana. And though Martin's parents divorced when he was young and he was raised in Cherokee, his father was the only tie he had to the Blackfeet Reservation. So aside from that, he didn't know anybody there.
Oh, his only tie to, so it wasn't like he was from the community.
No, he wasn't from that reservation at all. He hadn't spent any time in Montana, hadn't lived there. So his father was like the only connection he had to that area. Now, in the meantime, the McCoy family is desperately trying to locate Deanah. Law enforcement conducted searches using helicopters. They dredged ponds, and searched the roadsides looking for the missing woman.
Yeah, I must say, going over some of the court evidence you provided me with when I was studying up on this a bit, the cops, we give cops hell sometimes for not doing their job or whatever. In this case, of course, it wasn't a hard trail to follow. It didn't, need to be a Columbo, but they were moving quickly, efficiently, and they were really tying this entire scenario together in a very efficient manner, in my opinion.
Well, I think anytime you have a missing person and then you find their burnt out vehicle just hours after they had last seen their friend and an ex who's got a history of domestic violence.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I think they could see that this was not a good situation. Like, nothing good had come from this, and they couldn't rationalize it like, oh, well, she probably just packed up and left.
You say she left her wallet and her phone and all her belongings and makeup and stuff and never accessed her bank account again? I bet she run away. She started a new life.
Gosh, that's...
People do it all the time.
That's what they seem to say, even though that's never the case. Well, the Transylvania County Sheriff's Department began drawing up warrants on the burning truck, considering it to be stolen property and damaged property. Martin Pepion was due in Jackson County courts on the previous domestic violence charges, dating back from the fall.
Imagine that.
So when he fails to appear, warrants are issued because they consider him a fugitive.
Well, yes, and this is also a way to get him into, they do this oftentimes. They have these other charges, reasons they can get you into custody, and then they can work another case against you.
Since both men claim native descent, this is where things sometimes get tricky. So in 1978, the Supreme Court case, Oliphant versus Suquamish, stripped tribes of the right to arrest and prosecute non-Indians who commit crimes on Indian land. So if both victim and the perpetrator are non-Indian, a county or state officer must make the arrest. If the perpetrator is non-Indian and the victim is an enrolled member, only federally certified agents have the right. Now, if the opposite is true, a tribal officer can make the arrest, but the case still goes to federal court. So each tribe has its own rules on how local and federal law enforcement operate on reservations. The FBI has exclusive jurisdiction on Indian land for certain crimes that are considered serious, like rape, murder, and will come in and take over an investigation if those crimes occur. Some tribes don't have their own law enforcement at all, and they allow local sheriffs or police to operate as if the land wasn't a reservation. Others do have their own tribal police, but still allow other agencies to operate on tribal lands as if it's just business as usual. So in some cases, tribal members who had an arrest warrant issued in state courts are immune from arrest as long as he or she remains on the reservation and the tribal court doesn't endorse the warrant.
Wow. That sounds like it could get really complicated quickly.
It can. So in order to make arrests on native land, often law enforcement must also get tribal court to endorse the state warrants. Then tribal police can arrest the tribal member and deliver him to the custody of local police. So in many cases, tribal courts won't endorse state warrants.
Wow.
However, a lot of tribes see state fugitives hanging out on the res as they're not very good tribal citizens, and they don't really want them on their land causing more problems.
Well, see, I think that's a more healthy view of it. I mean, put aside all the horrible history between tribes and the federal government, but I think that's a more healthy way to view it for your community, because you don't want these types of people, criminals, to use your community as like a cover and be there, and they're going to be up to no good still, and now they're just preying on their own people. So yeah, I think that's the way to view it.
So the warrants issued in North Carolina for Martin and Bug meant nothing on Blackfeet land. Authorities within the Blackfeet Nation had to also issue those tribal warrants before the two men could be arrested. Now, due to the serious nature of the crime and considering a missing Cherokee woman's whereabouts were still unknown, they went ahead and issued those tribal warrants.
Well, yeah, see, that's unfortunate for the two fugitives there. The victim was a tribal member of another tribe. So I think that's going to carry some weight.
In the tribal court?
Yeah, because even if they might even get contacted from the people in the from the tribe in Cherokee, like, hey, this person, we think they've harmed a member of our family, essentially. So yeah, I think that would carry some weight with the Blackfeet.
On February 6th, a North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation agent, along with the Haywood County Sheriff's Department and the Cherokee Police Chief, traveled to Montana to make the arrest. When the two men were arrested on the 6th at the home of Martin's father, both declined in Blackfeet Tribal Court to fight the extradition. So they had an opportunity to try and fight it, but they didn't. And 4 days later, on February 10th, the men were extradited back to North Carolina where they faced charges on burning McCoy's truck. Now, it was on February 11th that the fugitives led law enforcement to the location of Deanah McCoy's body. Authorities discovered shattered glass and a bullet in the church parking lot where Deanah had been shot. And shattered glass was also found on the shoulder of I-26 in Buncombe County near where they had hidden her body.
So they blew out the window in the parking lot with the gun shot. And it sounds like they kicked out some glass when they were scrambling around trying to hide her body on the side of the road. So they've basically folded the perpetrators, and they're telling them exactly where they went and what they did.
During questioning, Bug told investigators that he was so overcome by his emotions when he witnessed Martin and Deanah arguing that he raised the gun to shoot her. He didn't have a reason why he killed her. As a matter of fact, he said he hadn't even really known Deanah McCoy personally other than just in passing through his cousin. They weren't really friends. They didn't hang out.
That story doesn't really hold water for me for some reason. It seems like you'd need a stronger motivation to shoot someone.
Well, it's a strange situation. It definitely is. I mean, they weren't friends, and police were baffled by this situation as well. And people in the community, in the Cherokee community, were also baffled by the arrest because Bug had no history of violence. He was considered quiet, almost shy by many who knew him.
Yeah, so he's just going to randomly shoot this poor girl because she's belittling his cousin he treats her like shit. The cousin treats her like shit and is abusive. And so that's what's strange is that if the community heard the abusive ex killed her, it would make sense. It wouldn't be okay and it'd still be horrible. But this just doesn't add up in my head.
Yeah, and it didn't add up for a lot of people. And someone who worked with Bug at the casino in Cherokee described him as being really polite, quiet, shy. And when they heard this news, they were absolutely blown away. Like, this is one of the last people they would ever expect to commit a violent crime like this.
It's very strange.
Deanah's body was taken to Chapel Hill for autopsy and identification. She died from a single gunshot wound to the left side of her head. Robert Gronwald, or Bug, was charged with first-degree murder under the felony murder rule based on discharging a firearm into an occupied property and robbery with a dangerous weapon. Martin Pepion was also charged with murder. So on February 15th of 2001, Judge Bradley Letts denied bond on the two men. 15 members of Deanah McCoy's family showed up to the hearing, which was held in Haywood County, knowing that they had to bury their loved one the same day.
Damn.
So on this day that she's going to be buried, they have to go to court while the judge decides on bond. I mean, how difficult is that?
I'm sure they were a mess. I mean, they've just lost their loved one, and but they still need to show up, which they did. That was a good thing.
Well, the solidarity of this family, I mean, I think it just goes to show that as a community, these people are very tight-knit, and as a family, 15 members of her family showed up. I mean, that kind of solidarity, and considering you have to bury her that same day, I mean, to me, that is just, like, that really pulls at my heartstrings.
Yeah, I think that says a lot. She was cared for, she was loved, and, they're not going to go down without a fight, and they want to make a visible showing at the bond hearing, and I'm sure that impacts judges to a degree.
That
a lot
this
of
person
times.
was loved and cared for.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. So in the time leading up to the trial, the entire Cherokee community was reeling from this murder. I mean, Cherokee, as I mentioned, it's a tight-knit community, and all three involved had grown up there.
And it's just so senseless. I mean, that's murder always sucks and is horrible, but it seems to make more sense when there's some kind of motivation or gain to having done the murder.
Well, you can imagine the tragedy. I mean, this is a community where everybody knows everybody. People know your family. You may be related. There's a lot of people who are like distant cousins. They went to high school together. And then on top of that, I mean, they have children.
Right.
And these poor kids have lost both their mother and now potentially their father.
Yeah, and then you have multiple families affected because their kid is gone, either murdered or gone to jail. So yeah, it's just I'm sure it's a ripple effect that affects so many people.
Well, the community rallied together to raise money for Deanah's children by selling fry bread dinners at the fire department.
Ooh, fry bread.
Fry bread is delicious.
Oh my God.
It is the most tasty thing ever. Anytime I have an opportunity to eat like chili and fry bread, I'm on it. I wish I knew how to make fry bread.
I want some fry bread right now.
Somebody listening, please teach me how to make fry bread because I love it. It's so good. Well, Bug was first to go to trial. He was found guilty on the first-degree murder charges as well as robbery in December of 2001. So this went pretty quickly. I mean, they're arrested in February, and by the end of the year, the trial's already taken place. Yeah,
I mean, the investigation was very quick. They figured everything out quickly, and then they got their hands on them, held up a little bit with the, back and forth between the Flat and the Montana tribe and Cherokee. But, yeah, they're not messing around, and they're certainly not going to be one of those cases where it's 5 years later and they're finally going to trial.
Yeah, I mean, I see some of those cases, and we've even seen some of those locally where someone gets murdered and literally it'll take 5-6 years before the trial happens. And you're like, where's the justice in that? So it's nice to see that they were able to expedite this and get some justice pretty swiftly for this family. Well, he was sentenced to life in prison. Now, he's currently serving that sentence at the Avery Mitchell Correctional Institute. Now, according to his inmate record, he's had about 12 infractions, ranging from fighting to illegal use of a cell phone, as well as gambling and several sex acts. In 2011, he won a first-place prize for drawing in a state inmate art contest, and I have to say, the guy's pretty talented. He is an amazing artist. I'm actually going to take this image, the drawing that he did that won this first prize. I'll post it on our social media, Instagram specifically, so you can see what a talented artist he is.
Well, another reason to not ruin everyone's life and not have done this stupid thing, this horrible thing.
In early 2002, Pepion took a plea deal, sparing a challenging and long trial. He stood before Judge Marlene Hyatt, accepting a sentence of 28 to 35 years for second-degree murder and robbery. Prosecutors called this an extreme case of domestic violence, and he's currently serving his sentence at the Alexander Correctional Institute. His projected release date is September of 2028.
Oh my God, he could get out. Is that like full-on release? Or
yeah,
when
that's
he's
the
up
full-on
for...
release, because
Wow.
at most he would have to serve 35 years for the second-degree murder and robbery charge.
Okay.
Martin's mother, Julia Losi, told reporters after the hearing, "We just hope the family can heal." And Martin's Aunt Linda Reed Davis chimed in and said, Deanah was part of our family too, adding that she hoped the two families could continue a relationship in order to raise the couple's then 7- and 2-year-old children.
Yeah, I mean, what can you... I guess you just hope for something decent to work out in all this.
Well, and she's right. I mean, I think oftentimes we see a case of domestic violence and you immediately think the perpetrator's like, they're this terrible scumbag person. Well, and let's be honest, sometimes they are. Most of the time they are. But what about the family members? Because they're right. I mean, she was part of their family. That was their grandchildren's mother. She was probably in their house for holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, cookouts, birthday parties. I mean, that's the other part of this is like, not only did your relative commit this crime and they're going off to prison and you've got all these feelings about that, but you are also losing this person that you loved and cared about as well.
Right.
It's like a member of your family.
Yeah. I don't know even how you deal with all those emotions, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a really overwhelming set of emotions to deal with.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, I'm probably not articulating that in the best way, but it's just so much to
I know
deal
what
with.
you meant.
Well, in 2002, the Ernestine Walking Stick Domestic Violence Shelter opened up in Cherokee. It is a program primarily funded by federal and tribal grant monies to combat domestic violence, stalking, sexual assault, and dating violence.
Well, and that sounds like a very important organization, and I'm sure they've done some great work.
Now, if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence or intimate partner violence, you can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. It is free, confidential, it's open 24/7, and it's a hotline dedicated to creating plans for safety, getting people help, and helping to identify what is considered abuse.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And I'd like to say this has been a kind of a serious episode for a reason, because it was all serious matters. But if you are listening to this and you are involved in some domestic violence, you deserve better. And I know it's a slow burn for you to end up in this situation where you think that you don't have options, but you do. And I'm sure that if you look around, people care for you and they will do anything to help you. And you can change your situation.
Well, you know, today it is viewed with a different lens than I think it was years ago. And for that, I'm grateful that people do have an opportunity to get out of those situations. Law enforcement is much more willing to help people. There are all these programs that will help relocate, but we still are not taking the situation as seriously as we should.
We're not, because what you outlined is improvements, but we still have a long ways to go. Because you still see many stories where, the cops kind of get tired of dealing with it, coming to the same house over and over. And I'm not blaming the cops at all. It's the way the system is. And they also, in the cops' defense, you get in these situations where, okay, they drag this guy off or whoever's doing the abuse off. Well, then, because you're in this toxic relationship and then you're right back with them and stuff like that. And people are just like, well, you're not going to change your situation. But it's really hard.
It's just a really tricky situation.
It really is.
And I think for people who've never been in the situation, they can't wrap their head around the whys, like the how and why are you staying in this? How are you letting this person come back? There's just so many facets and so many different elements that come into play that I think people, unless you've been in the situation, you just can't wrap your head around it.
Well, and I think it's been pointed out to us, we've been chastised by our listeners because our view of cults. And I think there's some parallels here. How do you end up in this situation? It doesn't happen overnight. Happens over X amount of time, and you don't even realize how bad the situation is that you're in, and you have your mental health and everything affected. But you deserve. That's all I can say is you deserve better. And if you have a loved one in those situations, do everything you can to help them. Just let them know that you're there for them.
It's true, and just be there and have that support for them because, again, a lot of people, I think they find themselves in this situation because maybe they've got children, maybe they're not financially capable of leaving. That person perhaps their partner controls the money in the house, the finances. They've been alienated from their loved ones.
Yes, these are all key components of creating this situation. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I thought this was a really important story for us to discuss, Dylan, because we haven't really addressed domestic violence on the show. We've had a few cases where there may have been some elements of that, but we haven't had just a straight up domestic violence related murder. And I thought it was really important to talk about. So
do you want to talk about how maybe possibly Ravonda told you, I don't know, maybe this didn't happen exactly like has been stated by the cousin and Martin?
Well, I think there have been some people, with all true crime cases, especially ones that, maybe don't 100% make sense.
And things do just...
It doesn't seem rational.
Right.
That there have been some people who've maybe floated the idea that perhaps Bug didn't shoot her or that he was covering for his cousin. And some people maybe buy into that theory, but, he confessed. He took the sentence. He's serving that life sentence. So who knows? And maybe, obviously people like to kind of come up with their own theories and ideas. And maybe it's just one of those things where it doesn't really make sense.
No, and just because
But it did happen that way.
Right. Yeah, but it's very odd. It's a very odd story. There's just absolutely no motivation for this to have happened. And it just seems to me like if it happened like that, like Martin would be like, "Oh my God, what did you do?" Wouldn't instantly be on board with, "Yeah, let's go hide her body and burn her truck and all this."
Right. So are you coming at it from a point, Dylan, where you feel like that could have possibly been premeditated? Like they had a plan that this might be something they were going to do together?
It seems spur of the moment, kind of like something just happened. But if his cousin didn't do it and he's taking the rap, that's a tall order. That's some hardcore shit to be that loyal to your family, any family member, to take a rap for something you didn't do. And then they both ended up in jail for murder. So, it didn't help anything. So, yeah, maybe it did happen for some, who knows, no reason. And it's just a very sad situation.
But I guess you have to consider, too, Dylan, it is family. And so perhaps when Bug made this split-minute decision and, split-second decision, and he shoots Deanah, and he gets his cousin on board with helping, like, dispose of the vehicle and hide the body. Maybe it's just because they were so close as cousins, as family members, that they were literally like, "I'll do anything for you." And I'm not saying that that's a good quality, because obviously in the situation, that's a very toxic trait to have in a situation like this.
Well, yeah, maybe you're right.
Legit loyal to someone that you're going to help them hide a body. But, I don't know what the answer is. I just think it's a really sad case. It's really disturbing. And, the biggest victims in all of this, aside from the poor woman who lost her life, is her poor kids. Because, again, they lose their mom and then they don't have their dad in their lives. And, it's good that they had a big family who stepped in and have helped raise them. From what I understand, the family has helped raise these children. But it's just, they really lose out in the end. It's just such a sad, sad case. And so unnecessary.
Yeah, anytime in these cases when there's violence between a couple, either the man to the woman or the woman towards the man, and then the other spouse is, found guilty and goes away, it is so sad and devastating for the kids especially.
Well, my heart just goes
You lose
out to
both
them.
parents. One parent's, and then to have had the one parent who's in jail harm and murder and cause the death of your other parent, I don't even know how you can have those thoughts in your head and be any kind of a healthy, I just don't know how you would deal with that.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of turmoil. Like, how does forgiveness come into play with this? And
yeah, because then you have the one surviving parent who did this to your other parent, and I know you hate them for that, taking this, but then at the same time, you have this yearning as a child or someone's kid to have like a relationship and, some kind of love from, wow.
And I always think about these domestic violence situations as well. I think of the victim's mother and father. And I believe that Deanah's father had passed away before this happened, but her poor mother. I just can't imagine you have a child, and as a parent, you want to protect that child and you want to keep them out of harm's way and you want to help them and you want to solve all their problems as a parent. Even if they're an adult, they're still your little kid, right?
It's
this
true.
is still mom's little girl. And to know that she's in this situation where someone's mistreating her and then she ends up dead. As a parent and you have that burning desire to protect your children, like I just can't imagine having to live with that every day, knowing what happened to your child.
Yeah, I know.
And how do you go on from there?
And maybe if she was ready to leave and be done finally, and I'm sure, the mom and family's like, you got to stop this. You can't be.
This is unhealthy.
This is unhealthy.
Good for you. This isn't
and
good
you
for
see
your children. This is not, yeah.
You see a glimpse of the light at the end of the tunnel, and this hope that she can get past this, move on with her life, get in a healthy relationship, be safe.
She's going to college.
Yeah.
She's taking these radiology classes. Obviously she's goal oriented. She's trying to to better herself, get a good job where she can take care of her children. I mean, she's really trying, it sounds like. And then to have her taken out in such a just nonsensical way.
In a split second.
Because it doesn't make any sense, and it's just so fucking sad.
Oh my God.
This case really breaks my heart.
It's really sad.
Well, guys, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to Mountain Murders. You can send us an email if you have feedback on this case, or maybe you have one you want to suggest, or you just want to drop us a line. It's mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com, Mountain Murders Podcast. If you want to access bonus content, be part of our Discord chat, and get those ad-free episodes.
Oh, yeah, I just want to point out to any existing patrons, if you go find the Discord post about Discord and click on the skull, that's how you get in on the fun, and it will direct you to our Discord chat.
There is that.
And I got to say one more thing.
What, Dylan?
It's related to this story in a very direct way. You know the wife beater got canceled? The tank top with the mustard stain and chili stains? We shouldn't say wife beater anymore.
Well, yeah, that's insensitive.
It is insensitive. But I can't remember what it's changed to. So we're just going to go with a dirty tank top.
Like a white undershirt?
Yeah. So, but I guess I'm telling myself that because in a kidding manner, I will throw out the term wife beater. The guy was wearing a wife beater with the chili mustard stains, whatever.
Well, yeah.
Just a trashy guy.
Let's face it, we're much more PC today than we were 20 years ago. And I do remember that being a thing growing up, as people would throw out that term kind of jokingly. But I think we're much more aware now that that's really insensitive.
Well, as someone who's been in that situation or been in this, bad relationship, and, men can be abused as well. It happens a lot less often and typically not as physical abuse, but it does happen. But yeah, it is insensitive to just throw that around in a joking manner.
Well, thank you for bringing that up.
Well, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just thought I'm just making sure everybody knows. Okay. I'm doing my part.
So you're just educating us.
That's right.
All right. Well, we always appreciate your feedback, Dylan, and your commentary.
Wait.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you mean that.
Well, I'm not sure I mean that either. But you guys have a great week. We'll be back on Wednesday with a brand new Offbeat, and it's going to be a good one.